Not all of our minisodes need to be from listeners. In fact, places or lesser-known cases can sometimes take us to dark realms. Hello everyone and welcome back to another installment of Dark Realms. If you're new to the show, or the video indeed, what we do is we go and take a look at some of the places suggested by our listeners to the Dark Paranormal podcast, about places they've heard or they know are allegedly haunted by some of the darkest things that we could imagine. And we then spend 15 to 20 minutes a week taking a deeper dive into those locations. If you're listening to this on the audio version, then the links in the show notes should guide you to the webpage for the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just search for The Dark Paranormal wherever you get your podcasts. And for today's episode, we need to say a huge thank you to our listener, Gabriella, who suggested we take a look at, allegedly, Sweden's most haunted house, namely Borgvattnet parsonage. Borgvattnet literally translating as House of Priests. The old parsonage in the remote village of Borgvattnet, Jämtland, stands with its weathered walls and stoic facade, betraying little of the fearsome reputation that earned it the title of Sweden's most haunted house. Built in 1876 as a vicarage for the local parish priest, this humble dwelling has been the stage for nearly a century of ghostly lore and eerie happenings. From its earliest strange incidents dating to the 1920s to the present day, Borgvattnet has accrued countless chilling stories that blur the line between history and myth. For decades, the parsonage was unremarkable, just a country parknage in a tiny settlement. But by the early 20th century, tragedy had already stained its walls. In 1907, a vicar's wife named Marta died tragically in the yellow room of the house while giving birth. She was only in her early 30s, and due to the winter's frozen ground, her burial was delayed. Some stories claim that her grieving husband couldn't bear to part with her, and therefore kept the body in the house for an extended period of time to allow the ground to thaw. Others whispered that she was secretly buried in the garden, only to be later exhumed and taken away by her husband in secrecy. That shadowy tale has become part of the building's dark mythology. The first widely reported paranormal incident came in 1927. The resident priest was away at the time, Nils Hedlund, Marta's own son. He wrote an unsettling experience of hanging out laundry in the attic when an unseen force violently ripped clothes from the line. There was no wind, no windows, and some believe it was Marta herself making her presence known. Each subsequent priest brought more stories, and in the 1930s, a vicar by the name of Rudolph saw a mysterious woman in a grey dress walk silently through the main hall and then vanish into thin air. In 1936, Victor Otto Lindgren and his wife reported strange footsteps, doors opening and closing by themselves, and ghostly music playing from the empty rooms. But the haunting truly gained fame in 1947, when Vicar Eric Lindgren courageously spoke to the press about what he'd experienced, and he described hearing heavy furniture being dragged across floors where no one was. A constant sense of being watched, and most famously, being thrown out of a rocking chair by some invisible force. These accounts caused a national sensation and led to an official church inquiry that concluded the unexplained phenomena were indeed occurring. Eventually, the church stopped using the parsonage as a clergy residence. In the 1970s, it was bought by a man named Erik Brännholm, who transformed it into a guest house and museum of the paranormal. Guests began receiving a diploma of bravery if they managed to spend an entire night in the haunted house. Today, the parsonage functions as a seasonal bed and breakfast, a ghost tour venue, and generally an occult curiosity. But the spirits said to have roamed those halls have not rested, and here are some of the most terrifying of all. Firstly, we'll take a look at the Grey Lady and the Sorrowful Women. Now, if there were ever a nickname to put the fear of the dead in you, that's a pretty solid contender. One of the best-known apparitions is the Grey Lady, a somber figure often seen gliding silently through rooms. The first person to report her was Vicar Rudolph in 1930, who watched as this grey-clad woman walked across the hall and vanished into the vicar's study. Years later, a travelling diocese secretary by the name of Inga Flodin stayed in the house. In the dead of the night, she awoke to see 3 women sitting on a sofa across from her bed, staring intently at her. One wore deep purple, the other the darkest of blacks, and the third a pale ashen grey, her face swollen and red as if crying. Inga could see right through their translucent forms, and the women sat there silently staring for moments before disappearing. They became known locally as Die Sorgsna Fruana, the Sorrowful Ladies, and many believe they were the vicar's wives or women who had suffered terrible losses connected to the house. Their room is now in fact called the Weeping Women's Room. Modern guests have all confirmed a similar experience, waking to see 3 women sat on that couch. A former visitor said, "I did not see the ladies again, but their presence laid on my chest like a concrete brick." Apparently they never harm the living, but their mournful, lingering sadness is said to follow the guests after they leave. Next, we'll take a look at an unseen force that seems to favour one particular piece of furniture within the home, that of a rocking chair. If the Grey Lady is sorrowful, the spirit that haunts the rocking chair is furious. The rocking chair once belonged to Vicar Eric Lindgren, and it became famous in 1945 when he sat in it and, without warning, the chair rocked violently and threw him to the ground. Startled but stubborn, he sat down again, only for the chair to fling him out once more. This time he was so shaken he never sat in that chair again. He's quoted as saying, "A sudden second yank and I was once more on the floor." The story spread, and eventually the chair was featured on national television. Guests have reported it rocking by itself, feeling sudden cold spots in the same location, and the eerie sensation of being watched. One visitor even claimed to be shoved by an unseen hand. Another reported hearing footsteps approaching the chair, only to find no one there. In one particularly terrifying case, a paranormal investigator who was investigating rumours of an infant buried behind the house began digging around a little bush. The moment his spade hit the earth, the entire house began to shake. Let's take a quick break to tell you about a wonderful product. Did you know there are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our world? From the food we eat to the air we breathe, even the skincare we use, they could be messing with your hormones and making you feel like you're stuck in a mystery of your own. And just like a plot twist in a true crime story or one of those unexpected scary moments in our submitters' experiences, hormonal changes like premenopause or menopause can strike at the most unexpected times. And suddenly you're dealing with mood swings, sleepless nights, and all those other symptoms that make you feel like you're losing control. But here's the good news. This is one mystery you can solve with Happy Mammoth. Just take the 2-minute free quiz from Happy Mammoth, answer a few simple questions about what you're experiencing and where you're at in life, and you'll uncover the real culprit behind your hormonal symptoms. And the best part? After taking the quiz, you'll get a personalised recommendation to help you balance your hormones so you can feel like yourself again. The results are impressive. There are over 40,000 reviews on their website. Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. According to a survey, 86% of the women started losing weight, 77% say it improved their mood, and the biggest benefit? 100% of the women surveyed said they're feeling like themselves again. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DARKParanormal at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DARKParanormal for 15% off today. Almost as if something deep within the very grounds of the building was angry by the disturbance. The rocking chair itself is still inside the house, and guests will brave each other or dare each other to take a seat in it, and some do, but not for long. Next, and arguably taking the title of most terrifying nickname, we have the Weeping Maid and the Dead Child. This is perhaps the darkest story of all, considering that it is of a maid and her murdered baby. A 19-year-old maid working in the parsonage became pregnant. It possibly was by the priest himself, and to hide the scandal she was locked in an upstairs room, the Pink Room. The baby was born on a winter's night, and either died naturally, or, as many believe, was deliberately killed. The poor infant's body buried underneath a lilac bush outside of the window. Some people claim the maid then took her own life shortly after. Since then, visitors have heard the unmistakable sound of a baby crying from within the walls just before dawn. Some report full-on screams that are cut off abruptly. Others say they see a small child peeking from behind furniture or standing behind one of the doors. Shortly after, they will feel a depression in the seat next to them, like a small child has just took a seat right there. In the guest book, a guest once wrote, "I didn't sleep, I could hear a woman crying. No, wailing. It sounded like it came from the wardrobe, but when I investigated, nothing." Paranormal investigators have tried to calm the spirit, some even attempting exorcisms, but this sobbing mother and her child remain. Some guests often leave toys or flowers in the room to bring peace, although the next morning they seem to have disappeared. The Vicarage of Borgvattnet is different to most haunted houses. It's a place where sorrow and shame have left spiritual fingerprints, where a grey lady quietly watches, where the angry force hurls guests from rocking chairs, a place where your sleep may be disturbed by the cries of a desperate mother or the cries of her murdered child. This remote home holds secrets that refuse to remain buried. It remains open to the public to this day, offering rooms to rent and tours to join for those brave enough to do so. Not many leave without a story of their own, or at least something they can't quite explain. Sweden, with its beautiful deep forests, ancient runestones and folklore, is a land steeped in the supernatural. From tales of the Nicken, luring wanderers into rivers with his violin, to the Tomte, a house spirit who punishes those who fail to show respect. As rich as the stories and its beautiful landscape is, Sweden's amazingly rich folklore, supernatural ambience, and of course its ghost stories are as rich and as varied and as beautiful as the place itself. While many of Sweden's haunted places carry a quiet mischief or maybe a slight melancholy, Borgvattnet stands apart. It may not be the strangest sight in the country, but it is, without question, one of the darkest. The sorrow that lingers there, like a dark, heavy fog, it doesn't simply haunt, it mourns. It watches, and at times, if it wishes to, it will warn. But it will always terrify. So if you ever do decide to go and visit this wonderful place, then remember as you sign in at that front desk, not everyone who's signed in has signed out. For some may never have left this mesmerizing dark realm. And of course, this is our final Dark Realm for Season 19 of the Dark Paranormal, so there will be a couple of weeks break, but then we will return for the start of Season 20, and of course, the start of a new series of Dark Realms. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss when an episode drops. And as I said earlier, if you're watching on YouTube, head over to wherever you get your podcasts, search for the Dark Paranormal, and there will be plenty of paranormal information and stories for you to binge during the break. In the meantime, stay safe, take care, and we'll speak soon.